On this week's episode, a deal is reached and the actors' strike is over, but is the deal any good? Non-spoiler reviews of Marvel's The Marvels and Marvel's Loki. The trailer drops for Avatar: The Last Airbender. And why are we never going to see the best Looney Tunes movie ever made? This is The Hub on Hollywood. I'm James.
Meep, meep. I'm Jamie.
Boom, boom, meep, meep.
Yeah, we'll tell you all these things. Here we go.
All right, welcome back to another episode of The Hub on Hollywood. Jamie, now we can cut this if because I did not run this by you before we started recording.
God,
but you told me that there was some in Casa de Blanco, there was some controversy regarding a certain holiday mythical figure. Can we talk about that?
Yeah, but you know, if you are a child,
Spoiler alert
for Christmas, you know, if you are under the age of, let's say, 10, you know, just cover your ears for a second. Yeah, so my son found out that there's no Santa Claus.
Oh no! How did you find out?
Well, he was asking a lot of questions. He's like, "How does Santa do this? And how does Santa do that? And is there really a Santa Claus?"
And you just couldn't keep up.
I couldn't keep the facade going. Yeah. I'm like, you know what, buddy? There is this one last ultimate secret to Santa Claus, and you are old enough to know, and you are so responsible and grown up, and you know. And I had to tell him, and there were tears, which broke my heart. But then after that, he got it, you know.
I don't know if that was like a real reaction, because I don't remember when I first learned that Santa wasn't real, but I don't remember having a strong emotional reaction. But there are kids who they're completely blindsided by it, and that it's very very emotional.
And I think that he learned that you don't ask questions if you don't want answers. This is a lesson that he learned today. But it is going to be okay. Christmas is still going to be super magical. We're going to come up with some kind of tradition where he has to still like find his presents, or we hide things from him, or like just to keep it fun and magical.
Now, I joked earlier, does this mean he's getting one fewer presents each year now?
No, it just means that as he's put it so well, now he knows who to blame if he doesn't get everything that he wants on his
Mommy
Christmas.
And Daddy.
Exactly. And he gets to be Santa for his little sister this year. But did the actors, James, get what they wanted or deserved for Christmas this year in this SAG-AFTRA deal that they have just struck with the AMPTP? They have recommended that everyone vote for this measure, and so now it goes to the all of the SAG members who are going to start voting on this coming Tuesday. So let's get into this, James. What is actually in this hard-fought deal? 118 days on strike. That is now officially over. Yeah. Work is resuming. A couple of projects, which we may be able to mention after we talk about this, in our area that are getting back on track. But let's take a look at this first. What is actually in this deal? Yeah, we got some bullet points. The official full contract, full deal has not been released yet. But what we do know is that the contract improvements are valued at more than $1 billion in new wages and benefit plan funding. And so they're calling this a landmark achievement for the union. Some of the things that they've won include protections against artificial intelligence and increased pay for background actors. Also, I guess there's this 11% wage increase for background actors that's taken effect on Sunday, with additional increases over the next 2 years. And then this also includes additional residuals for streaming services and allowances for relocation. So those are some of the big bullet points that have been released so far. We're going to get deeper into the weeds, or the details will be released this week. Right. But at face value, this looks really good. Fran Drescher she held a press conference the day after or so, talking about the big accomplishment that this was. Right. So you are a background actor. You're a body double as well. When you heard this initial alert update, what were you thinking? Well, it was a great giant breath of release. Like it was a sigh of relief. It's been way too long. Hopefully in the future, with what has been gained in this initial contract, that we never have to be on strike this long again. And I think that the studios have learned that they can't just starve us out, which was initially part of what was going on with the Writers Guild of America's strike. That was reported that seemed to be the strategy, right, was wait for people to start losing their houses and not being able to buy food. Like, what the heck?
Yeah. That's a real movie villain, like,
I know.
Plot. Yeah.
Right, but it is all playing out in real life. It's a huge sigh of relief. However, now we have a deal, right? We're going to vote on it. It's most likely going to pass, but it's still going to take time for productions to ramp back up. It takes 2 to 4 months in order for a lot of these projects to get ready to go. And we're in the middle of the holiday season now. So that's a little bit of a bummer. So we're looking at us robustly getting back into the business of making movies next year in 2024. That is not to say that not a few projects aren't getting back in the saddle and trying to wrap things up. One in particular, which I think that we can mention, is Beetlejuice 2, which, as you remember, they were in the middle of filming when the strike happened. They were just days away from the end of production, and it looks like that is picking back up at the end of this coming week. They're shooting their last 2 or 3 remaining days. So that's really great, because the other thing is the conflict with the A-list actors and their schedules and all of this stuff. But as a background actor, I'm looking very much forward to getting back to work, getting back on set, and being paid more. Being able to have these protections when it comes to AI. And I want to read the details on that. I want to read the fine print. But there appears to be a lot more protections than there were previously, or at least consents. And it might not be perfect, but my understanding is that they're going to be revisiting, especially in particular the AI issue, every couple of years to update the language.
Because AI is going to be changing and updating on a daily basis.
So quickly,
seemingly.
right? So even in between contracts, they're going to be meeting and updating protections on AI, which Duncan Crabtree Ireland, the main negotiator there for SAG-AFTRA, was talking about. That was the #1 issue, and it was the most complicated, and it was on the table from day one, and it was on the table at the very last day. Because if you've been following us, you know that SAG-AFTRA provided their best and final offer like a week and a half ago, and SAG's like, no, there's still this, that, and the other thing, and
they're like, no, but
AI.
we said this is the last and final offer. It's like that's not how it works. No.
But in any negotiation, James, you don't get everything that you want. And there were so many issues on the table. There were lots of wins, but there were also things that I don't think that we got. And one of those in particular being the streaming residuals. It was not. We didn't get exactly what we were looking for. They're going to be providing a streaming bonus, but the residual schedule is going to be remaining the same. So instead of, for example, you made a movie 20 years ago, you get residuals for the rest of time. When it comes to streaming, you get residuals a certain percentage for 1 year, a lower percentage for the second year, and after the third year, you get nothing. And so you can't live off of that the way that actors have traditionally been able to live off of their work for all time. And that doesn't appear to have changed with this contract, so I think a lot of people are going to be upset about that. I'm afraid that, because I think Netflix and Amazon Prime, for example, are so quick to not only end a series like mid-season through, or only run a season or two and then cancel it entirely, even if it's popular, but also pull the shows entirely from the streaming service. And so if they're like, you know what, if we have to continue to pay any type of residual for having this show on our streaming platform, let's just remove it entirely. And sometimes it's exclusive for like Apple or Netflix, and it can't be shipped or shopped to another streaming service. So that's another thing that I just thought about may happen. These studios may be more willing to, just pull the show and you can't get it or watch it anywhere. Right. Yeah. I'm not sure, but they absolutely have been playing pulling the strings and not wanting to pay out James. So it's definitely something to continue to keep an eye on, and for future contracts to continue to dig in on. But the streaming bonus might not be what everybody wanted, but it's a little more than what we had before. So it's definitely something to keep going on, right? It's the initial of, we're going to keep pushing for these people to be transparent, and to pay those who create the content that make them billions of dollars what they deserve for, actually being the ones that are the creatives that make it. So we are going to, there's so many points to talk about. There's so many contentions, right? Not everything that we wanted, but definitely a step in the right direction. We are going to have Michelle Proud back on our show, who is a SAG-AFTRA leader, and she was very generous enough to be with us here on the Hub on Hollywood a couple weeks ago. She's going to be with us later this week, again, to go over the details of the contract and to talk about the give and takes of that kind of a negotiation. So definitely be sure to continue following the Hub on Hollywood and check back with us a little bit later this week, because we will have that for you as the actors go and start considering to vote on this, because they're going to be voting on this next week. So Hub on Hollywood's here for you. Yes, we are.
Don't miss a beat. One thing I've noticed too is that after it was announced that a deal has been accepted, has been reached, a lot of actors have gone on social media publicizing their projects that they haven't been able to talk about it. One of them being Xolo Maridueña, who you may know from Cobra Kai, you may know from Blue Beetle, and also the next Zorro. I swear he will become next Zorro. If it's my last breath, I will make sure it's right. Anyway, but he's on his social media. He's like posting all the behind the scenes, footage and pictures and clips and stuff. And so a lot of these people who've had, this was like his big movie for the strike to pretty much, dampen it, the excitement and being able to talk about it. It's over. So now you see these celebrities start publicizing their stuff. Timothée Chalamet was on SNL. Timothée Chalamet was on SNL, and in his opening monologue, he talked about his new Willy Wonka movie came out. He did like a little Willy Wonka number, song and dance, and also talked about Dune and other projects that other people have not been able to talk about. So he's excited. So even though, as you mentioned, in this negotiation, not everybody has gotten what they want or wanted, there's still reason to celebrate and be excited for this.
Exactly. And a lot of projects, film projects that have been on hold, whose release dates have been pushed back and back and back, will now be released. And I think that maybe the studios are hoping that kind of closes the gap between what films we have ready and available now and, having to go back and make up for 6 months of not being able to film, and get those projects ready for next year, because next year's looking light, it's looking tight. We'll see how that's all gonna shake out. But just thankful that we're getting back to the business of making movies.
No, funny that you mentioned, looking forward to movies getting released next year, maybe a trickle, but we're going to see new stuff. There is one thing that we will not be seeing get released next year. And that is what many people behind the scenes have said may have been the greatest Looney Tunes movie ever. But it's shelved. Coyote versus Acme, starring John Cena. They filmed, produced by Warner Brothers, and it was supposed to come out, I believe, on Max, but it was given a theatrical release, going to come out on July 21st. And so, of course, a lot of money went into this, a lot of effort, a lot of people worked on this. However, it was just news broke last week that the movie is being shelved. And you may be wondering why? Why would Warner Brothers shelve a movie that's already getting so much praise and buzz and adulation? It always comes down to money. So apparently, according to the Rolling Stone, the movie Coyote versus Acme, which was supposed to be following Wile E. Coyote, is going to be written off for taxes. They said that those who worked on it, they learned that the studio would can the entire $70 million project and use it as an estimated $30 million tax write-off. This comes after they did the same thing to the Batgirl movie, which was going to star Brendan Fraser. That one was set to be released soon, but then Warner Brothers, after a while, they're like, you know what, we either bled too much money, we used too much money. Something happened where they didn't manage their money correctly, and they saw Batgirl as something that they could sacrifice and write off in their taxes. And of course, this is making everybody, obviously those who worked on it, very upset, but people who are fans of the Looney Tunes and people who are just tired with what studios continue to do and how they treat works of art and projects.
Exactly.
And really, treat it as if it's nothing and it's expendable.
It's so painful. It's so painful because it is a work of art, like you said, and there is such a tremendous effort that goes into making movies like this. People put their blood, sweat, and tears. They're working 14 hours a day, 6 days a week, 7 days a week to make these things happen and to make these films happen and make these stories come to life. And then for it to be written off for a technicality and this work of art that people would enjoy, that would become part of the pop culture story, it's just gone. And no one can see it. Now, you had mentioned to me that they're going to have like a screening for the crew and whatnot. That is poor consolation.
That's like the very least they could do. If anything, that's like adding insult to injury because you're just saying, yep, you can watch the fantastic movie that you worked so hard on. No one else is going to see it, though. And so you've had crew members already going to YouTube and posting their footage and pictures of props, of sets that look amazing. They look very cartoony, but it's set in the real world. And it's a shame. Dave Green, the director, he released a statement saying, quote, "I am beyond proud of the final product and beyond devastated by WB's decision. For 3 years, I was lucky enough to make a movie about Wile E. Coyote, the most persistent, passionate, and resilient character of all time. I was surrounded by a brilliant team who poured their souls into this project." It's gutting.
It is gutting. And if I can share with you, James, I'm a member of a few groups of filmmakers on Facebook. Yeah. And one person did share their story. And I won't mention the name just for anonymity. But this person said that they were one of the location managers on this movie. And he said that he almost died of stress pulling the permits for this movie, that they closed down the entirety of downtown Albuquerque within, a day and a half notice. With a days and a half notice, they had to shut down, pull the permits, and organize shutting down all of downtown Albuquerque to shoot these, the parts of this movie. And this person is talking about how he called in every favor. He lost a lot of clout. He got... People were upset with him and all of this, that it ruined his relationship, and he's just venting about his frustration of working in this industry, and you pour everything that you have, and it's not just a few people that work on these movies. There are thousands of people who work years to put these movies together, and for it never to see the light of day and not being able to get credit for your work, and for it to just go into a dark hole, meep meep, into a dark tunnel and never reappear. Do you think that's kind of like a metaphor, like a Wile E. Coyote metaphor? Like he just can't catch a break.
No,
man.
He could never catch that Roadrunner, no matter how hard he tried and the effort he put into it.
They just blew the dynamite on this project, and it's painful. It's definitely painful to see. And last year, there were so many projects and TV shows and movies that were either completely done, halfway done in production, that were just completely the plug was pulled by Netflix and a bunch of and all of the other studios and streaming services for the same reason, because things have been contracting, and for that bottom line. It's interesting.
Let us know what you think. Were you looking forward to Coyote versus Acme, again starring John Cena, what's said to be what could have been one of the best?
Maybe they're all Roadrunners. Maybe that's what's up.
Maybe. Well, let us know. Again, thank you so much for watching us on the Hub on Hollywood. Be sure to follow us on all the social media platforms. We are on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, Threads, Facebook, @Hub on Hollywood. Also follow Jamie at JBlancoNewsy and myself at James Rojas MMJ. Jamie.
Yeah.
One show that looks great and did not get the axe before its debut is coming out in February 22nd, a couple days after my birthday, is Avatar, The Last Airbender. The trailer was released. You watched it moments ago, and you look like you were enjoying every second of it.
I'm so excited, guys. Yeah. I'm so excited. I've been an Avatar: The Last Airbender fan for over a decade, right? Don't fact check my numbers. But yes, over a decade, right? Yeah, it's been that long.
Yeah.
And it's just, the cartoon itself was so magical. It was so well done. The story is so beautiful. All of the martial arts, all of the sort of, not theology, but the world building, right? The philosophy behind all of it, and it's so beautiful, so well told, and the characters are spectacular, and it is only equal to the. As good as that was, is how horrible the movie was, right? With M. Night Shyamalan when that came out.
We don't speak his name here.
We don't speak. Yeah. So, and that crashed and burned. And after that, fans were just in the dark place. The Fire Nation had taken over. But it was a shame because it's such a beautiful story. And I think after that, the creators were very
protective
of it, exactly. But now, for the last 5 years, James, this is not new. This has been in production. This live action Netflix, right?
Right.
Live action version of Avatar: The Last Airbender has been 5-6 years they've been trying to put this together. And we've got the very first trailer now. Mm-hmm. I mean, they finished principal photography over a year ago. I think even 2 years ago. And they've been working so hard on the CGI, the graphics, editing everything together and making it as beautiful and perfect and seamless as they possibly can. The original creators were part of the process initially about halfway through before they handed over the reins. So I think that the fans of Avatar are very passionate, and we've been burned before, and they wanted to get it perfect, and I just saw the trailer and all of these years of work and anticipation, and it looks good, James.
Yeah.
It looks so good. Like they've done the villages and the locations, and the world looks beautiful.
The first thing you said was it looks so much like the anime.
Yes, it looks so much like the show. It looks so much like the cartoon, and the characters that we already know this. The casting is 1 billion times better. Everybody is the proper race, right?
Yeah.
But they are also incredibly talented and proven actors. So that's really exciting to see these people and how they match the characters so well, especially Fire Lord Ozai and Uncle Iroh and everybody. They look amazing. And the visuals are amazing so far from the one trailer that I saw. It looks so much like the anime, and if it's not broke, don't fix it. There's no need to reinvent the wheel.
It's kind of like One Piece. I hear this very, very similar, almost shot for shot.
Yes,
with that anime too, the show.
Reproduction of the anime in a lot of ways. And that's how it needs to be. There's a reason why people love it so much. It's a reason why it connects so deeply with the audience. It's not broken. Just
now, what would you do?
Have an actor do it. That's all.
What would you do if the trailer looked amazing, but the show was actually worse than the M. Night Shyamalan version? What would you do? Would you just...
It's impossible. First of all, it is impossible for anything to be worse than the M. Night Shyamalan version. Just that trailer alone, I can tell. But if for whatever reason, James, it was just another flaming disaster, then I would gather my army of benders and we would march down to their studios and just, have at it.
Would that just be like strong men who can bend things?
Yeah.
Just
just bring rocks and,
goodness.
and water hoses. And I don't know. Don't listen to me. This is not a threat. I'm just playing.
I think that's a threat. We're going to call some people. No.
We'd be pretty upset. I'd be pretty upset, James, because I was there opening night for for Avatar, M. Night Shyamalan's version.
And after that movie, you actually burned the theater down.
Yeah.
You're still wanted in like 5 states, I think. Yeah.
I've never heard a theater of people like go from blissful excitement to just anger so quickly. Like you could feel the energy leaving the room, and people just they started yelling at the screen, James. Like it was bad. But I'm excited and hopeful for this version after seeing this trailer.
Yeah. Are you excited? Are you hopeful for Avatar: The Last Airbender Netflix live action edition? Comment down below. Let us know what you think. Also, let us know what you think about the M. Night Shyamalan version too. I think our opinions have already been put out there. But
keep the cursing to a minimum, please.
Yeah, keep that cursing minimal. I don't think you need a curse for this next segment we have. Maybe you do. I don't know.
We'll see.
We're looking at the new Marvel products, content. Somebody recently described a famous documentarian, a documentary maker. He made documentaries in like the 70s and 80s, but somebody, I think the studio or whatever, they're publicizing it on a social media app, and they called his documentary content. This content producer, like people in the comments were so angry, like you call that famous documentary making brilliant filmmaker a content creator? Like how dare you? Yeah. And so I've seen like different businesses and corporations have called their like movies or shows like the latest content. Is like, whoa, don't call this content. This is not how many people consider what content is now. That's not on the same level, not on the same page. But let's speak about this content. So Marvel's the Marvels. The Marvels. And so you've watched the Marvels. It just came out to theaters, and you also watched the entire season of Loki season 2. What do you want to dive into first? This is a non-spoiler review, right?
Non-spoiler. This is all non-spoilers, so don't worry. But we can start with the Marvels. We'll keep it nice and brief here and non-spoilery. But the Marvels out in theaters now, starring Monica Rambeau, and that's not the actor's name, but the character Monica Rambeau, Kamala Khan, who's Miss Marvel, and Captain Marvel, and somehow their powers get entangled with each other, and they have to work together to save the world, right? Because the world is always in danger, James.
Marvelous.
Do not go into this movie expecting a serious comic book movie.
Right.
Don't go in expecting everything to make sense. For this to be something that you add to like the little comic book Bible in your heart. Like, go into this with tempered expectations.
If you said that 10 years ago, 5 years ago, for any Marvel movie, people would be like, what are you talking about? These are great, fantastic films. I'm not going to temper my expectations because they're always exceeding expectations.
That standard.
This is a different era of the Marvel MCU.
It certainly is. Yeah. And the visuals are not up to snuff. The story is silly. And it's meant, I believe, just to be fun and dumb.
Okay.
With some deeper emotional beats, but...
Kind of like Thor: Love and Thunder, because that one felt very dumb.
That felt dumb, but it was well done and rewatchable. I don't know if I'd say that about this one, but I went in there with the proper, anticipation.
The bar was low. The bar was low.
Expectation with my bar low, and I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it for what it was, but don't expect it to be anything more than what it is, I guess. Is all that I'll say about the Marvel.
A couple of things I've heard that there are a couple of movie reviewers who I really relate to and have similar opinions to how they view things. And one guy, Dan Merle, shout out. He said he went in with good expectations. He always wants to see a movie succeed. He says he never wants to see a bad movie, so he always goes into a movie open-minded and hoping that it's good. And he says the chemistry between the actors, the main trio, it works overall. It's just he felt that the real problem with the movie was the story, and in the bigger picture, the state of the MCU right now, where things are kind of, this show has to connect with this other show, but the tempo isn't matching it, or you have these different teams that are not fully collaborating with each other, and so they don't get all the characters right. For example, on Disney Plus Secret Invasion, the Nick Fury in that series is very gritty, very tired, very beaten, and in a very bad place. This Nick Fury is very jokey, very jovial, and there was no communication between this project and this project. They feel very different, and
disconnected. Yeah.
They said that there's also a lot of issues with the reshoots. There were a lot of reshoots with this movie, and from what he thought, from what he's perceived, was that there was this original movie with Captain Marvel that was in the works that seemed like they have a good plot, but then they decided to add in Miss Marvel and Monica Rambeau, and then that changed the story, and then that led to more reshoots, more rewriting, and the movie feels incomplete.
Yeah.
There were fun moments.
There are definitely.
And they work well together, but it just, the story-wise, seemed incomplete.
It seemed incomplete, and it seemed in parts to not make sense. There were loose ends, and there were things that just, you're like, what about this thing? What about that? So definitely plot holes. But as you mentioned, I think the chemistry between the characters was a highlight. I think Kamala Khan and her family.
I hear she steals the show.
She does, absolutely. They were the heart of the movie. Her character and her family in the movie, they're the absolute beating heart of that film, and what made it the most enjoyable for sure. So if you're a fan of Miss Marvel, you're going to be happy. But you make an excellent point. This Nick Fury is nothing like the Nick Fury that we just saw at the end of that last series. So it is what it is.
How was the villain in this one? Was the villain
cliche?
Not deep like Thanos or another character like Kang? Overdone. I mean, how many times are you going to have a villain with the same kind of motivations? And I mean, she looked cool. She looked really cool, and the fights were really cool. But this is another issue, and this is an issue that I had with Loki as well, without going into detail, where the powers of the characters just are completely inconsistent. Right? It's like, okay, this character is getting his ass beat right now. He's getting beat up and kicked around in this one scene. And then in the next scene, they're all powerful and doing this completely unbelievable and incredible godlike thing that nobody else could do. But he was just getting kicked around 2 seconds ago. Like they forgot what they could do. Like, oh yeah, I could always pull that out of my...
I forgot what my powers were. So it's just the inconsistency there. It takes you out of it. And I think that is a concern overall in the MCU right now. So it's definitely, as you mentioned, we're seeing that declining bar. Yeah,
because there was Ant-Man, Quantumania. I didn't hate it, but I really didn't like it. I really enjoy Ant-Man 1 and the second one, Ant-Man and the Wasp. I think those are one of my favorite, most rewatchable movies. Paul Rudd's amazing, and the cast works so well together. The story is very simplified, where it's not like the whole end of the world is at stake. Quantumania, it blew everything out of proportion, and things just that also felt like an incomplete story where there were a lot of reshoots and rewriting. Then you had a Doctor Strange and Multiverse of Madness. That one I enjoyed, but I think it could have been better. And again, also a lot of reshoots, a lot of different changes were made. Secret Invasion, you have all these other shows on Disney Plus, and it feels like Marvel's being spread way too thin. Its resources, its VFX artists are being worked to the bone, and they are trying to make something look good, but they're put on such a strict timeline where not everything can.
It didn't work in this movie.
No.
Like, first scene, You could tell they're on a sound stage. The lighting is bad. Like, it's just, I'm like, really?
Yeah.
Guys.
So the question for this, should you, and you said, if you do see it, go in with tempered expectations. Do you recommend seeing it in the movie theaters or waiting until it's on Disney+?
It depends on how you want to spend your money, James. But it might be better to just wait to watch this one on Disney+.
Okay, because you're already spending money on Disney+.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
maybe that's more a smarter, wiser financial decision.
This is a fun, like, Friday night at home with the family kind of movie.
And it's like an hour 30, or it's one of the shortest Marvel movies.
It was really short, and that I did like. I did enjoy that it was at least short. And did not prolong
I like that it was short. That was the best thing about it. It ended really quickly.
No, I think Kamala Khan's Miss Marvel was the best part of the movie.
People say that though they're disappointed with this movie, it's not the actors' fault because they're doing the best they can, and they can tell where things were reshot or things were taken out, or characters that felt like they had a bigger role in the initial draft. They had like a 5-minute screen time and all this other stuff. But Kamala Khan, the character, and Ilman Vellani, the actress who plays her, she's a highlight, and people are really looking forward to seeing her continue.
And I think she really brought out chemistry in the other two. I think people have been complaining about Captain Marvel being a little bit too flat as a character and not having enough emotion, conflict, motivation, but I think that she drew out some really good texture from the other characters. They were all excellent foils to each other, so that part is good.
Okay, so catch the Marvels on Disney Plus, coming to a streaming service near you. Speaking about Disney Plus, currently on it right now, and season 2 wrapped up. Loki. As I mentioned, the other projects I just listed that were not exciting for me or just fell short and I was not thrilled over, I enjoyed season 1 of Loki, but I've been so turned off and I'm not in a rush to see things that MCU is producing right now. And I was kind of in the same boat of Loki. Like, okay, I enjoyed season 1. I'll wait until I hear how things are for season 2. Now, things that I've heard without spoilers, is that it's a good season and it ends in a bittersweet note because they're not planning to make a season 3. So they decided to have this be its own thing and kind of end. I heard good things, and so now I'm like, okay, now I'm interested in investing time and energy into the show. Where do you stand? Because it sounds like you may be on the little opposite end of the spectrum.
Listen. Okay, so this is the wrap up of this character in this show, right? Season 2, and Tom Hiddleston, who has been playing Loki for over a decade.
Crazy.
Right? For 14 years.
Crazy. That's insane how long this has been going on.
14 years. Was one of the producers on this project. He worked with the writers. He sort of led the flow of the story of this character and the development of this character and where he goes and where he ultimately ends up in his pursuit of glorious purpose. That is great. I think that the plot, and this is when you are dealing with a story that involves time and space and time travel and all of that, it is so easy to get lost. It is so easy to fall down the slippery slopes of multiple timelines that go nowhere, and then your story gets overcomplicated and convoluted, and I think that it got muddled in that way. There were some relationships between characters in this show that they fizzled where I felt it needed to sizzle. I didn't feel the sizzle I wanted, James. I wanted more sizzle.
We need a rating system. We do fizzle or sizzle.
Sizzle,
ooh, I like
right?
that.
We can make a little
segments
graphic.
in the future. Fizzle or sizzle.
Yeah.
Okay, but yeah.
So I feel like season 1 for me was better. However, this season, while it gets a little bit muddled, it does end this character's arc in a very satisfying and surprising way. And I think that that's all thanks to Tom Hiddleston and his understanding of this character. And in that way, that was very satisfying. But the question is Tom done with Loki entirely? And he started, people are wondering that because of this quote that he had given recently.
I'm done, quote. End quote.
No, but he said about Loki season 2, he says, I will say it all comes full circle. It is a kind of conclusion to season 2. It is also the conclusion to the seasons 1 and 2. It's also the conclusion to 6 films and 12 episodes and 14 years of my life. It's been a journey. So that sounds pretty much like he's done.
Yeah.
I don't know what your take is on that.
I like it when they do know. For example, they while making season 2, it seems like they knew this would be it. No season 3. We're not going to keep stretching this thinner and thinner and thinner, and then end on a whimper or end on a cliffhanger and then not get renewed for another season. So I like that they seemingly knew this would be the final run, so let's give it all we got and go out with a bang. So I appreciate them leaving on their own. On their own note, on their own accord. So that I always appreciate with any kind of project, because there's so many great shows that they have a cliffhanger, an amazing cliffhanger, and then show's canceled. You don't know. Okay, no one's happy there, except for the studios to get to write off another show and their taxes.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I feel like I have been a big fan of Tom's portrayal of Loki and the Loki character. I think it's one of the strongest characters in the entire MCU, with real depth, real acting chops. And so if he's good with it, I'm good with it. I'm happy for him.
Yeah.
14 years is a long time to work on any project or character. So I like that. I'm happy with it.
Yeah, and one other thing that I will say that I think is also an issue with the wider MCU right now is stakes in a movie or stakes in a story that are happening, where a lot of the stakes don't feel believable anymore. It's like, well, I know that this character is going to just come back to life again, and
or his
blah,
variant
blah, blah, blah,
of
blah,
sorts.
or his variant, or this timeline or that timeline. So I feel like, sure, they've done a good job in ensuring that they can tell a million stories and have movies into perpetuity, but it removes a lot of the stakes and it makes it feel cheaper. You know what I mean? Like I don't feel emotionally invested in it. Like, I'm not scared for this person's life.
Right. Final question for myself. Not for myself, but from myself to you.
Okay.
Weird way to phrase that. So, Loki is one of the few rare characters, not only in the MCU, but in entire cinema history, to have 2 character arcs. There's the arc in the original MCU timeline where, spoiler alert, Loki is killed by Thanos in Infinity War. And then, again, no spoilers, but there's this other timeline where Loki has this character arc through seasons 1 and 2 of the Disney Plus series. Which character arc do you think is the better character arc?
For his character?
Yeah. Because Loki in Infinity War dies a hero, dies, redeemed, and he's with his brother Thor, and basically gives his life for the cause, for the greater good. Even tries to kill Thanos, but fails. But his character goes from evil brother to loving brother, and Thor has an emotional moment with him. To, again, I have not seen season 2, so please no spoilers. But in this one, he also goes from ripped from the original MCU, where he's still jerk Loki, but then he has I could choose my own destiny and have my own purpose.
Okay. Good question. Without any detail, I would have to say just purely Loki arc.
Yes.
Just purely Loki. I would have to say this one.
Ooh, I like that. I really do like that.
Okay.
Yeah, because I love the character, and just thinking about his end in both timelines, That's good. I mean, I think both are. It sounds like both are good. I haven't seen it, but I'm really looking forward to wrapping this up.
Exactly.
So that's cool.
All right.
What do you think? Which Loki do you think had the better character arc? It's not a competition, but we are competing. Excellent. So let's kind of wrapping up in our last segment of what we're watching on this week's episode of The Hub on Hollywood. But this movie you actually reviewed earlier this year, starring Jennifer Lawrence, No Hard Feelings.
Yeah.
Just came out on Netflix. My wife and I watched it, and you, from what I remember, you enjoyed the movie. It had a lot of good surprises, a lot of good laughs, a lot of good gags. So I went in, cautiously optimistic. My wife had no idea what this movie was about. She just knew Jennifer Lawrence, a dating movie of some sort, some kind of comedy, and so she had no idea what the premise was. And 5 or 10 minutes in, basically, do you want to give a synopsis, like just the general? Like, there's Jennifer Lawrence's character.
Right.
Kind of
Jennifer Lawrence's character is down on her luck. She's trying to keep her mother's house, and she's doing everything that she can to make some money, and she agrees to date this rich couple's...
Hard date,
like really date him. This rich couple's very
sheltered shy
son, right, before he goes off to college, which on the face of it, she's like in her 30s and he's like 18.
Yeah.
And so it's a cringy premise that ends up surprisingly amazing and with a lot of heart. But that's what I thought anyways. Yeah. So what did you think?
So I went in again, so I knew the premise and knew the general idea of the story, but it surprised me with how like emotional and heartfelt that it does get, though it is very light, it is very fun, the pacing is very good. Jennifer Lawrence needs to do more comedy movies. My wife, again, maybe 5 or 10 minutes in, she's like, this is weird. Like, I'm not sure if I'm down for this premise or this story. And I'm like, just let it. We're just 5 minutes in. Let's soak it in. Let's let it build up momentum. And then eventually, very shortly after that, my wife was on board. The jokes started flying. Jennifer Lawrence is so charismatic on screen and hilarious, and she and the main character, the 18-year-old, I'm forgetting his name, Percy and Maddie, and just their back and forth and the things they get into, and just Jennifer Lawrence's character of just like getting hit by life metaphorically and sometimes physically, like over and over again. But she's very quick to brush it off. Like, okay, let's get to because she has a goal of getting this car and accomplishing this mission, and to save her house and whatnot. But I thought it's a very quick, light, fun movie that my wife and I really enjoyed watching. And so, I enjoyed it.
I think it was sharp. It was hilarious.
It was.
Like, they let Jennifer Lawrence off the leash. And she went all out. Oh my God.
I'm not sure this is a spoiler because it's been out for a little bit, but Jennifer Lawrence does a nude scene, and my wife's watching it, and she's like, is that a body double? I'm like, I don't think so. I'm pretty sure that's her. And it was her. Like, she went full... all out, literally, for this
monster
film.
Mode.
And it was hilarious. It was great. Again, there are emotional beats that they hit in the middle and end.
It was a full frontal nude scene, and it was not sexy at all.
No.
It was like, I was screaming the whole time, like, what the heck? What am I watching?
Well, that was great. And one thing I loved right after that scene, it goes back to her swimming in the ocean. She's like, okay, where were we? You're like, oh my God, that's hilarious. I'm not sure, because it's been out, it's on Netflix right now. I won't give away any spoilers, but there was a moment in your review, you mentioned that there was a jump scare. Was that the jump scare where she's back at the house with some guy?
Yeah, well, it's like he's in his house or something like that, and it goes, dun, and she's like staring at him. She's like stalking him.
Oh, what part was that? Where she's stalking him. It was near the end?
It was closer to the beginning.
Closer to the beginning.
Yeah. It's like he's just like in his driveway, like being normal or something like that, and then it does that classic horror pan with like the music. It goes, you just see her like stalking him.
Oh my God.
Like an animal.
That does not ring a bell. We just watched it last night, but that doesn't ring a bell.
Yeah.
I thought
watch it again.
Okay, I'll watch it again. But I thought you were referencing
that scared the crap out of me.
I thought you were referencing a second part in the near the end of the movie where she's hanging out with some other guy, and then there's like a game, the finger trap. Mm-hmm. I thought you were talking about that part. Do you remember that part?
No.
Yeah.
I don't remember that part.
We may pause this, but
yeah. No, that wasn't that.
Okay.
No, it wasn't that part.
I was trying to think, like, she mentioned like a jump scare, but I don't remember seeing a jump scare.
No, it was more in the beginning of the movie.
In the beginning of okay.
Yeah. Go rewatch it.
Yeah. My God, but I enjoyed it. I enjoyed.
That was scary
no
too.
Hard feelings. That was very funny. That was very surprising, but very funny. Let us know what you think about No Hard Feelings. It's on Netflix right now. That was so funny. I enjoyed it. Also, what I also enjoyed recently, I've watched it twice during 2 screenings, and I've told my wife, you need to see this movie because I enjoyed it. People are saying that this may be a new Christmas classic, The Holdovers, directed by Alexander Payne, starring Paul Giamatti and Dominic Sessa of Massachusetts, his first film ever, and it just came out in movie theaters, and a wide release November 10th on Friday. So I highly recommend this movie. It's now getting more of a publicity boost because the SAG-AFTRA strike is over. But I just don't want this movie to fly under the radar because it's such a good, heartwarming, light, funny movie with emotional beats as well.
Filmed in New England.
Filmed in New England. If you want to see Boston, if you want to see Massachusetts in its wintry glory, check out The Holdovers. It is such a good movie, and I think many people have also said this too, but I agree. This may be Paul Giamatti's best performance ever, and there's Oscar buzz already surrounding this film, already surrounding Paul Giamatti. I would definitely recommend that he be nominated for Best Actor because he disappears in this role into this character as this very curmudgeonly professor, and so. The Holdovers, I can't speak more highly of it, so I recommend watching it. I'm going to try to drag my. Basically, The Holdovers takes place in 1970 New England, Massachusetts, in a Massachusetts town where these board school. Is that the proper way? Board school? Students?
Boarding
school students. It's a winter break and everybody's leaving. However, there are maybe a handful of students who cannot go home for winter break, and so they must stay on campus, and they're called the Holdovers. And there has to be a professor who has to stay there during the 2-week winter break to supervise, feed them, make sure like they're safe and everything before school resumes again. And so you have Paul Giamatti's character. He's the teacher. He's the professor, and you had these other students, and there's also this cook who is also on campus for the winter. She lost her son who used to go there. And so she's, in this weird kind of state of mind where, she doesn't want to leave. This was the last place where she hung out with her son, so she wants to feel a little attached to him, especially during Christmas. And so it's during this 2-week period where this teacher that nobody likes, that the other teachers don't like him, administrators don't like him, because he's a stickler. He will not pass somebody, even though these are all rich, bratty kids with really very important parents and stuff. He's not going to let them pass, let them slide, because an education needs to be earned. And so people are like, just give him an A. It's like, no, this school is based on principles. We're not going to break my principles to let this jerk pass. So that's kind of character type he is. And then you have Dominic Sessa's character who has to stay at home because his mom and fiance, they pretty much ditch him. So he's left at school. And during this 2-week period, these two eventually form a bond. But it's that journey of that bonding that is so fun, emotional, heartwarming. I enjoyed it.
It's human.
And human. This is definitely in my top 5 list of best movies of the year.
Great. Not written by AI.
Not written by AI. No. Alexander Payne, he held a Q&A. They had a screening in Somerville at the Somerville Theater where they filmed inside that theater, and they also filmed. They made it look like the Orpheum Theater right at Boston Common was the exterior of the Somerville Theater where they filmed the interior shots. And so it was cool to actually be in the movie theater watching the movie where they showed scenes of that same movie theater.
Wow.
So it's beautiful.
That's very Inception.
Very Inception-like. So if you love it, if you love the Boston area, there's plenty of Boston iconic locations to watch and see and appreciate. So I appreciate it. I think you'll appreciate it. You better appreciate it.
I appreciate you.
All right.
Yeah.
I appreciate you too. Excellent. Well, jam-packed episode, as always.
I mean, was there anything we didn't talk about?
No.
This episode. Let us know what you guys think. What are you watching now? What should we watch next? What do you think about the SAG-AFTRA contract? Is it everything that you think that it needs to be? What do you think about Loki? What do you think about the Marvels? What else did we talk about?
No hard feelings.
No
the
hard
holdovers.
feelings.
Actors. The Coyote versus Acme getting shelved.
Maybe
Terrible.
can we raise enough money to get that movie released?
Yeah,
period.
we
Who
could throw
knows?
like a car wash or something.
Start a hashtag or something.
Car wash in winter time. Yeah.
Okay, car wash. All right, let's go. Yeah, in the freezing cold right now. Let's go.
Let's go.
All right, but until next time, I'm Jamie.
I'm James.
See ya.
Bye.